Hey guys, I'm Aaron and welcome back to another Body Club session. Today's session we're going to be doing a kettlebell workshop. So we're going to be breaking down some key movements that you see quite a lot with kettlebell conditioning. I would suggest that you probably have a little bit of resistance-based training experience, so having some understanding of some fundamental movement skills, that be hip hinging, squatting, and just ensuring that you've got full range of shoulder flexion as well, that you can reach your arm properly up over your shoulder. There's definitely a requirement for today's session. If you don't feel you've got that experience, I've got another Body Club video on some technical movement skills and fundamentals that will address those points, so feel free to always work on some of that stuff before you come through to slightly more intermediate level exercises that we're going to do today. So kettlebells are a great way to condition your whole body. So they're really good for cardiovascular based conditioning. We're not going to be looking at that so much today, but basically just to the nature and the shape of the kettlebell really lends themselves to big pendulous swinging movements. And the reason for that is just the shape of the handle, with all of the weight being displaced at the end of the handle. So as you can see here, it really sort of lends itself to being swung like so. And what's interesting is as it can be swung, what this will do is provide like a rapid lengthening and shortening of your muscles. And what that's good for is really building athletic development, building a rapid lengthening and shortening of the muscles, or what's called a ballistic stretch or a ballistic contraction in your muscles. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to start quite basic and we're going to build on complexity as we go through. So we're going to come to look at the first exercise, which is a kettlebell RDL, and that stands for a Romanian deadlift, and I'll explain those differences in a minute. So your RDL is just looking at the foundations of something that's called hip hinging, okay, which is just a slight bend in your knees, and then the rest of the movement comes from your hips, okay? So from here we hinge, and I'm actually going to push my tailbone back, a slight bend in my knees, and I'm going to flex all the way through. And I want to have a neutral spine position. Now, as I said, I'm sure you're comfortable with some of those movements. So we're just going to go ahead and start with a little bit of warming up with just 5 reps of single kettlebell RDL. So we're just going to take a little break in the knees, pick it up, make sure your back is nice and straight, make sure your shoulders are drawn back. We don't want the kettlebell rounding and pulling us forwards. So we're really going to lengthen out the spine. If you watch from here, my spine needs to come into this straight position. Now my back's in that optimal position to create lots of tension and to pull that kettlebell up. All right, 3, 4, shifting that weight back, and okay. So the key muscles here really are going to be the hamstrings and the glutes, okay? Glutes are going to be really shortening as we bring the hips through into a straight line. And again, what you might see a little bit of, or you might feel that you want to, bring the hips through. Careful not to go too far. It's often cued that we extend the hips all the way through, but this isn't really an optimal position for your back. So we just need to make sure that, yes, we push the hips through, but we ground the tailbone and tuck it under, and we lengthen up through the crown of the head whilst opening the shoulders. So from here, I'm now in a straight line. I'm not pushed through into what's called a hyperextension. Okay? So just a couple of key points there for you to think about. To practice that more, we're just going to add a bit more load. Let's take the second kettlebell. Now when you grip 2 kettlebells, what we're going to do is just take a hold just on the inside of the handle there opposed to the outside, okay? So from here, slightly wider stance so you can get the kettlebells to the floor, hinge back, pull tight through your back, lift, inhale, exhale. I've got 2 16-kilo kettlebells here. You might want to start with something a little bit lighter, or if you're used to resistance training, last one, and down. Then you can go with something a little bit heavier, okay? So now we're going to start to move through in a little bit more of a dynamic fashion. It's really important that you've got that RDL down before we come into the classic kettlebell swing. So your kettlebell swings are very similar to your RDL in position, except this time we swing through the hips. So this is a really nice pendulous motion through the hips. And this time, you want to start with a kettlebell a little bit further out in front of you, okay? That way, we can sit the hips back, and then we can create a swinging motion from here as I pull through my legs and drive through my hips. Now, it's really important that I don't let that kettlebell go too far away in front of me, because you see it's going to pull me forwards. So what I want to make sure is that I'm nicely retracted through the shoulders. And if you see when I swing, I'm even keeping a little bend in the elbows just to ensure that kettlebell stays nice and close towards me. I'm breaking the knees a little bit, but important, we're not doing this by bending the knees deep. This is really, we want to try to rely on those hips to create that movement. All right, and you can see there, 12 or 15 reps is enough to start to get your heart rate elevated, okay? And obviously we're not doing a workout today, we just want to learn some of the fundamentals so that you can bring that into your workout. So when you're doing your other body club workouts where people are suggesting that you do swings with your kettlebells, RDLs with weights, you've got a little bit more of an understanding for the movement and your confidence of your own movement competency. So we're going to move through into a swing clean now. But actually, sorry, first we're going to do a single arm swing. So it's very much the same thing as your double arm, except from here again we hold that on the inside. So where my thumb and my index finger come, I'm going to wrap that around the inside of the kettlebell there. And then same thing here. This one, it's important that we don't let that shoulder slope forward. So you might find that the shoulder wants to pull through, okay? What we need to do is use our lats and our back muscles to create lots of extension in the spine, okay? So a good thing about using the muscles in your back, especially your lats and your traps, is they create thoracic extension, which is great for your posture, okay? So from here, we're gonna hold, don't let that shoulder round too much, so create tension like we did last time, lift the chest, swing through the legs, drive, small swing, big swing, and then we're into our big swings, through those hips, little bit of work, through the knees, and back, okay? And then we'll obviously repeat that on the other side. Stance, about shoulder width, feet facing forwards, a little bit of turnout if you need it to be able to pick up the kettlebell. Remember, it's slightly in front of you. Good grip on the inside, back's nice and flat, pull it through, get tight, drive through the hips. Tight upper back, not letting my shoulder round forwards, keeping that chest lifted. Good glute activation, driving those hips through and release. Good stuff, guys. Next one, double kettlebell swing. So now we're just loading it up even more, and you can start to really feel the explosive power development through the glutes and the hamstrings with as you start to increase the weight. Might need a little bit of a wider stance when you're doing double, just to be able to allow the kettlebells to come through your legs. So let's go. They're out in front of you. Hold the insides and maybe even just a little turn inwards, like so. And then from here, got to make sure that back's flat. So I'm going to start with a little knee bend, chest up, swing through, drive. Good, and release. So, crucial, when you start to increase weight and you start to shift a little bit more weight around, that you're really bracing through your core muscles, okay? It's really important. Swings are also exceptionally good for development of transferring forces. So we're using the ground to be able to transfer force through the hips, through the trunk, and up to the sky, okay? So we're looking for that force transfer development. So now we've nailed that, you can always pause and practice the exercises for 2 or 3 sets or so. But just for the purpose of the video today, I'm just going to keep rattling on through some of these exercises, okay? Next one we're going to do is called a swing clean. Now you may have seen swing cleans before, and you may also have seen cleans with a kettlebell before. So a standard clean comes from the floor, more knee bend, straight up onto the shoulder, and is nice and tight, racked in here, all right? Try not to bring it on the back of the shoulder like so. You don't want to be looping the kettlebell. But we're going to do a swing clean, so we're going to use that motion that we've just done previously, and then we're going to catch it into the shot onto the shoulder. So the same thing, right arm first, back straight, lift your chest forward, hips back, swing through the legs, drive the hips, and it sits up on the shoulder. And I'm going to do another 5 reps. So I'm twisting the kettlebell, and it's sitting comfortably on the back of my wrist, not looping over onto the back of the shoulder, okay? And we're going to go through and do that on the other side. So if you feel the kettlebell bashing around, I mean, it's kind of part and parcel of learning the technique, is you're going to hit yourself on the wrist a little bit a few times. Got to do it wrong a few times to get it right. But you know when you get it right because it feels relatively comfortable. I mean, you have to condition a little bit the forearms, but it should feel relatively comfortable. And this is why we take this grip here with the arm just onto the hand, just onto the inside of the kettlebell. So that once it comes up, my forearm is just sitting diagonally across the kettlebell, all right? If I have my arm in the center, the ball is just going to be pressing against my forearm there. So it does help to have your forearm coming diagonally and sits a little bit into that groove there on the kettlebell, okay? So just a little tip, if you find that you're bashing your wrists around a little bit, might want to just change your grip, okay? Let's do those 5 on the other side. Inside, back straight, chest up, swing through, drive, catch, through, catch. Try not to bend too much your knees. Remember, we're doing a swing clean, through, up. Try not to let that shoulder round too much forward. Yes, we round it, but not too much. We've got to keep that upper back nice and tight. 1 more rep. Good. You might find, if you're practicing with light weights, that you overproduce force. These are your hips, and your hips are your hamstrings and your glutes. Exceptionally good at lengthening and then rapidly contracting and producing lots of force. So if you do find the kettlebell is kind of going up quite high, you might just be overproducing force, and that might suggest you need to use a little bit of a heavier weight, or practice on the technique under a little bit less, with a little bit less power, a little bit less force production. Good stuff. So we've done our single arm clean into double kettlebell clean. All right. So taking it up again, remember, just slightly wider stance for those doubles. Holding the inside, that little bit of rotation inward. Chest lifts, hips sit back. Don't overbend the knees. Pull between your legs. We're going to have an extra swing. So we're going to come through. 1, 2 onto the shoulders. Good. Remember, we've got that racked position. Forearms vertical. Come through. Swing up. Use those hips. Brace those abs. Last one. Good. And down. Awesome, guys. So you can start to see I'm getting a little bit of workout from it. Doesn't take a lot. 5, 6, 7, 8 reps may be enough to start with. So you're not fatiguing yourself too much when you're practicing your movements. Give yourself time to learn the technical skills, and then you can hit all your other workouts with really good proficiency and confidence. All right, next one, coming into the kettlebell snatch, the kettlebell swing snatch, because we're doing swinging movements today. Now, you see this done a few different ways. So we're going to go ahead and break it down a little bit. Essentially, I'll demonstrate the exercise and then we'll break it down a little bit. So I'll do 5 reps from here. So I'm going to take hand onto the inside, same thing. Pulling, lengthening your back, sitting your hips through, tightening through the back of the shoulder as it swings, and then up, overhead. Okay? This arm can do what it wants to balance. This arm is locked out over the shoulder, nice and tight. I'm tight through my lats, tight through my abs, tight through my glutes. All right? Then from here, modification, shoulder. Then I go back like I did on the way down from my swing clean, and then I'm going to swing back up. Up. This is your modification. Okay, let's practice that on the other side. Just do that modification, and then we'll break it down even more. Up. Down through the center. Good, well done. And release. So I don't know how you go on with that, whether you're a bit of experience or not. Now there's definitely some things that can go wrong here, all right? And key aspect is keeping the kettlebell in close to your body. If you have any experience with doing a barbell snatch, you'll know that you keep that barbell in really close to your body. You push your hips through and you keep it close. All right, you try not to let the kettlebell go too far away from you. Otherwise it will drag you forwards. And it's just not an efficient movement. So we're looking for efficiency. So the first thing to really think about as you swing through is to not, I'll do it wrong, is not to loop it around like that, which you may be doing. And then it bashes you on the back of the wrist. We want to keep it tight. We want to go right up through the center. Like so. Lots of explosive power from the hips. Lots of activity from your back and down, okay? Do that on the other side. Have a little bit of think about where is your arm position. Is it being dragged out forward, or am I keeping it tight, pulling through my upper back and then whipping my arm and catching it on the way up rather than at the top, okay? Good, all right. And then we'll do one more practice set. This time we'll swing it from the top. So you've noticed I'm doing a modification onto the shoulder and swinging through. So we're going to swing up and we're going to swing down, and I'm going to do 5 on each side. Little swing to practice to start, up, and then it comes over the top, through. Good, might have been 6. And release on the other side. my breath back. Not supposed to be a workout, but as you can see, I'm definitely getting one in. All right, from here, again, hold the inside, back flat, little one to prep, and then whip. Good, and then coming over the top, keep it tight to the body. Locked out over the shoulder. Really important. I'm up through a nice straight line here. I'm not out to the side, not in front of me, right up, stacked into that straight line. Great stuff. And then we're going to finish with a big one, which is a double snatch or double kettlebell snatch. So exactly the same principles as we've just worked with those other drills. Slightly wider stance. One little swing. You've noticed I like to do a little swing to prep. Just allows you to get your position set so you can be confident that your lift's going to be good. Don't have to. Remember, tight through the back. Pull, get yourself set. Little prep. And up. And then we're going down the same way. And release. And maybe taking a little bit more bend in the knees there, rather than swinging as much, probably just due to the nature of having two, not being able to rotate and wanting to keep those dumbbells a little bit tighter, or kettlebells tighter, rather than swinging out too far. So there you have it. Practice, and practice makes perfect, and then give you plenty of confidence in your workouts. And even in itself, you can use this as a workout, perhaps a few more reps there than I've done, or gradually increasing the weight that you feel confident with as you go through. Okay, that's it from me. Thanks a lot, guys. See you on the next Body Club workout.